Good evening, friends, as Clive Thompson would say. Hopefully, somebody will join me in the chat. I came in a little bit early. I am attorney Michael Ehline, and I just hooked up my temporary microphone because my Shuri is back in the United States. I'm attorney Michael Ehline. I'm a natural law attorney, and I like to talk about things that matter to me and my audience: gold and silver, the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights. I'm a fervent anti communist, anti Marxist. I believe in liberty and freedom. And I'm here tonight live coming at you from El Salvador, yeah, from Gran Via in San Salvador. Beautiful country, wonderful people. As you can tell from my chiseled jaw, I've gotten back into bodybuilding and I've been packing on the muscle. I'm really into athleticism, physical fitness, proper nutrition, high protein diet, staying off the carbs, staying off the sugar, staying off the government mandated this and that they say is going to make you healthy, but typically makes you dependent on them for some kind of treatment rather than just physical fitness and taking care of your body and taking care of your soul. So I'm hoping that you guys can hear me, and that's why I came a little early tonight. But if anybody can join me in the chat, let me know that I've got some 5x5s because I'm trying to dial in my microphone right now. So if any of my regulars are here, please stop by so I can adjust my microphone. The last time I tried this microphone, I was at my son's judo class and I was out in the car trying to do a live when I had my big fat face. And everybody said it was too loud, so I had to unplug it and go back to the regular microphone on my laptop. But since I'm on a balcony at a hotel in El Salvador, and I'll just show you where I'm at, beautiful country. I'm in El Salvador, Craig. Take a look, bro. This is my balcony view. There's the downstairs. You can see well, you really can't see the pool, but that's the pool area over there. I don't know if you can see it or not. But yeah, so I'm coming at you live from El Salvador. Can you hear me? No, I'm actually, my heritage is Swedish, Norwegian, a little bit of German, and a little bit of Scottish. So yeah, and I used to live in Scotland, so I really loved it there. So how is my audio coming in, Craig? Is it coming in okay? I mean, Irish kind of counts with Scottish. I mean, they're both Gaelic, maybe a little Pict. But yeah, my dad was 100% Swede. My mom was Norwegian. My mom is Norwegian, German, and a wee bit of Scottish, man. And I used to live in Motherwell, and it was great, Jimmy. So tonight I'm going to get into, but let me know, Craig, how's my audio coming in? How you doing, John Adams? I'm actually going to talk about you tonight. Let me know. What do you think? Is the audio okay? Okay, cool, because like last time I did this, my audio was awful and people were complaining because it was so loud and booming. So I tried to dial it in as best as I could. Hopefully it's better than the one I did this morning. The background noise from the echo from this balcony was so bad. It was embarrassing. So I wanted to do this live tonight because I wanted to distinguish what common law is, because so many people in the cop watcher community, the patriot community, don't really seem to understand what American common law is and how our courts rely on stare decisis and how our founding fathers considered themselves to be Englishmen, but free Englishmen. And they were proud of being English. They were just upset that the king had consistently signed treaties with them like the Magna Carta and then went back on his word. And of course, we know what really kicked off the American Revolution was when the king tried to seize our powder houses, just like a certain political party nowadays wants to seize our firearms or restrict them so much with so-called common sense gun laws, which obviously only help criminals and do nothing to help we the people. So naturally, So I practice law in Texas and California, Craig Thomas. And I'm glad my audio is good. That was one of my big things coming out here is like, I wanted to start doing shows again. And now that I'm back into the fitness thing, I mean, dude, I'm getting in shape, man. I mean, shoulders are coming back. My traps are coming back. I'm staying off the heavy duty lifting because I'm old now. So I don't really need to lift heavy weights. I have muscle memory. So what I'm doing is just taking boron, inositol, L-carnitine to supplement, as well as lots of magnesium and copper, things like that. And you can see my skin is really cleared up. And no, I'm not bald. I don't have any bald spots. I shave my head because I don't like the gray hair. So I just don't like it. It's just makes me feel old. So that's why I shave my head. So just so you guys know, I'm not a baldy. But a lot of women think that I'm handsome with the shaved head. You can kind of see it's already growing back. But I got to tell you, the copper has actually slowed down and started stopping my hair from graying, which is really cool. So copper and zinc and magnesium are really important. And I don't want to get too far off the beaten path. So we're going to talk about is the evolution of from English common law into American common law. And I'm going to try to make it quick because I promised my kids that I would spend some time with them tonight and take them around San Salvador for a little walk. And it gets a little bit crazy right now. We just had New Year's last night, and a lot of people are going to start lighting off firecrackers and M80s and stuff. So you're going to hear all this explosions. So I'm going to do my best to get this over as fast as I can. So let's just get into it. So I'm a natural law attorney. I'm barred in California, Texas. I've been practicing law for a little, but I'm a patriot first. I'm an inactive United States Marine. I've owned several small businesses. So I'm one of these people who's not people became lawyers before academia got involved and started using our schools to brainwash us into this Marxist ideology that's so prevalent in the Larry Fink National Education Association, public schools, and Marxist-run universities. So I was lucky that I didn't have to go through all that brainwashing just so I could become a professional barista at Starbucks and be replaced by artificial intelligence. So I like to teach people about where their rights come from and why we should be proud of being Americans and why America is such a wonderful, great place, as opposed to the revisionist history that's taught in schools where we're taught to hate white people and to hate our country, which is just ridiculous. It's part of what they call cultural Marxism, which is designed to separate us, because in order for one political party to stay in power, they have to create economic and racial division. And so that's what's really going on in this country today. And that's called cultural Marxism. And so I'm going to teach you the real non-revisionist history of our country that you'll never learn from one of these anti-American college professors or an anti-American public school teacher. And I'm not saying all public school teachers are bad, but let's face it, guys, the National Education Association is getting its agenda from the World Economic Forum, a la Larry Fink, who's now running temporarily at least the World Economic Forum. And Larry Fink is the guy who owns BlackRock, and he believes that we need to control people's behaviors. And so that's right out of the monarch or Marxist style philosophy. It's just, it's totally in opposition to everything that an American should stand for. Americans should stand for liberty and freedom and individual rights. And so that's why it was so important for me. Hey, Mr. Osgood, good seeing you. Yeah, I don't even want to get into that on my show, John Adams. You know, I'm a lawyer, so I have to deal with a lot of different people every day. So hopefully you like my lighting and my audio. That was the most important thing. It's getting dark outside, but I was able to take one of these really cool lights from the hotel. So I've got here, I'll show you. Look, so there's my room. And there's the lights. I've got, is that cool or what? So, being a Marine, we learn how to adapt and overcome. So that's what we're doing tonight. So let's get into a little bit of the history of how American common law evolved from English common law. But in a nutshell, here's how it works. All of the laws of England apply except were abrogated by the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and our other founding documents like the Declaration of Independence. Now, modern day Marxists will tell you, the college professors will tell you, or Keynesian economists will tell you, oh no, all that stuff was abolished once we created the Constitution. Only the Constitution applies. No, it's not true. So all of our founding documents, including all of the applicable English common law history, was incorporated by reference. If you read the Constitution, it clearly says in the year of our independence, 1776. So it's incorporating that document of our independence into the next document. And a lot of us know, I know it's a little noisy, you might hear some motorcycles. A lot of people know that we had the Articles of Confederation, and Federalists like Alexander Hamilton didn't like the Articles of Confederation, and there were problems with regulating disputes between states and being able to fund the Navy and Marine Corps to be able to protect our borders, which we know that a certain political party doesn't like to protect our borders because they're trying to use the United States Census and sanctuary cities to create more voting districts so their party can hold on to power. And obviously, if they kicked all the illegals out of California, California would be a red state again. The only reason California is a blue state is because the illegal aliens have enabled them to create more voting districts, which allows them to have more representatives in Congress. And you won't learn that on CNN or Communist News Network or PMS NBC, but you'll hear it here live from me. So let's just get into the history really quick. I love seeing you guys. Looks like we've got only 2 people left in the chat right now, but hopefully Mr. Osgood's still here and Craig is still here. And John Adams is here, and we'll get into the content, and then I'll try to get this over with as soon as possible. So how did English common law become American common law? Well, English common law developed in England from Middle Ages onward through judicial precedents and customs, and it was transplanted to the American colonies as American settlers brought their legal traditions with them. The colonies, being under British rule, applied English common law in their courts, adapting it where necessary to local conditions, like the frontier life or colonial charters, for example. The process is known as the reception of English common law. After the American Revolution, 1776, the new United States did not reject this inheritance wholesale. Okay, they rejected a lot of it, but not all of it, because there were flaws, because it allowed the king to destroy their lives. Just like a powerful central government is destroying our lives today using the Federal Reserve banking system. And then blaming it on rich people, right? But it's really the Federal Reserve. Anytime you artificially inflate the currency, you cause inflation. So, and that's what they do. That's what the Romans did. They started putting base metals in their coins to artificially inflate their currency, and ultimately Rome fell. But that was one of the underpinnings of the fall of Rome. So, although the United States didn't reject their inheritance wholesale, and they had a lot of anti-British sentiment, they kept common law because it provided a familiar, comprehensive body of law for contracts, property law, torts, and procedure. So what ended up happening, most states, except for Louisiana, which obviously that happened later with the Louisiana Purchase, adopted common law. Louisiana still operates under French law, French Roman civil law. A lot of people don't know that. So getting barred in Louisiana requires you to understand French civil law, Roman civil law. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys didn't know that, because hopefully you learned something new tonight. Okay, so basically the way it worked is, and of course it was French and Spanish influence in Louisiana, but they're French. The French and the Spanish operate under Roman civil law. There is no common law tradition, but it's a conglomeration of both. Okay, so basically most states enacted what are called reception statutes, or constitutional provisions adopting English common law as it existed at a certain date, often July 4th, 1776 or earlier, to the extent it was not repugnant to the Republican principles or local laws. So this is where a lot of the cop watcher community doesn't really get it. And so you have to understand that we have the 10th Amendment and we have states' rights, right? We have the 9th Amendment. We have a lot of other provisions that allow. So up until recently, states were called countries because they're sovereign, unless they go against the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. And so the states have their own sovereign laws, and the state constitutions adopted, all of them except for Louisiana, English common law, except were abrogated by American common law principles. Are you getting this so far? Give me a bunch of ones if you understand so far. So Post-independence courts continued citing English precedents, especially in the early 19th century when American case reports were scarce. So over time, American courts developed their own precedents, creating a distinct body of law while retaining core principles like stare decisis, following precedent. So stare decisis is basically where we have a case that eliminates a controversy, like the right of the people shall keep and bear arms in the Heller case, for example. That case is stare decisis for the principle that you're entitled to use a handgun or a firearm, a bearable arm for home defense. And then Bruin later expanded the understanding, that's also stare decisis, the Bruin case, for the principle that there had to be a historical analog if a state wanted to pass a gun law. And so the blue states love passing gun laws. They seem to want to follow the Canadian tradition of disarming we the people. And so obviously the Supreme Court had to step in and say, look, just because you want to have a Marxist state, it doesn't mean that the rights of the individuals in your state have to accept that. And so because we know the first thing a dictator or a monarch does is try to disarm their people. And I wonder why that is. Well, Mao Zedong said it best, because all power flows through the barrel of a gun. And so this is how American common law evolved from English common law through colonial adoption, post-revolution reception, and independent judicial development. Now, there are key differences between American common law and English common law. So while sharing foundational elements, precedent-based decision-making, judge-made law in areas not covered by statutes, and emphasis on case-by-case reasoning, American common law has diverged significantly due to the protections in the U.S. Constitution, federalism, cultural exchanges, and independent evolution. England and the U.S. are sometimes described as two countries separated by common law, but not so fast. So under English common law, there's no single written constitution. They have parliamentary sovereignty as being supreme, so laws cannot be struck down as unconstitutional there. Judicial review is very limited. Now, let's compare with American common law. Written U.S. Constitution is supreme. Extensive judicial review allows courts to invalidate statutes or actions violating constitutional rights. And that has to do with constitutional framework. Let's talk about public law now. Under English common law, it's more statute-based, and it's influenced by the European Union, which I think is a Marxist, anti-human rights organization. And this was influenced by pre-Brexit, and then the Human Rights Act. Okay, so that's more statute-based. Now, American common law, public laws are heavily constitutionalized. So like you've heard of Marbury versus Madison, all laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. See, because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land here. England has more of a living constitution. So American common law, public law is more heavily constitutionalized. Many issues like free speech and due process, as you'll see in a lot of Chile de Castro's videos, the police try to shut down free speech, or, you know, on a lot of the videos that you've seen coming out of Arizona and stuff, you know, what's going on over there, what a disgrace, where they try to shut down public hearings and stuff and prevent people from speaking if they're pro-Second Amendment. But it's heavily constitutionalized, and free speech and due process is paramount. And so ultimately, when those go to court, they get struck down. And it's because it's resolved via constitutional interpretation rather than pure common law. So there's a huge difference between the English common law tradition and the American common law tradition. Now, precedent and persuasion. Under English common law, courts follow their own higher court precedent strictly. Post-independence, English decisions have little influence in the United States. Of course, they shouldn't have any. Now, in American common law, U.S. courts rarely follow modern English precedents, and they shouldn't follow it at all. And they focus on American case law. It's only the leftist judges who try to bring in foreign laws, European Union and British laws into our courts. So that's why you have to be very careful how you vote, because the person you vote for may appoint a Marxist judge who thinks it's okay to flood your country with foreign invaders and give them TPS and give them free things. So the U.S. courts focus on American case law. Pre-1776 English cases are still persuasive if they're not overridden by American common law jurisprudence. And that's something that in law school, you have a lot of case law that's Old English common law. So it's interesting. The older cases, and then they're expanded upon or distinguished in modern American jurisprudence. So specific areas, well, under English common law, for example, divorce, judges have broad discretion in property division. Third-party contract rights are generally excluded, however, and attorney's fees, there, the loser always pays. That's why nobody wants to bring a defamation lawsuit over in England, even though they have less protections for the free speaker. If the other side loses, they're paying their own attorney's fees, and that's kind of scary. Loser pays, so the loser pays, and that is a big distinction. Now, in the United States, it's because the states are sovereign. The states get to decide what the rules are going to be for divorce law. So some states use a fixed equal division or community property rules. Third-party rights, however, are often allowed, like beneficiary contracts. Attorney's fees, under the American rule, each party pays their own fees unless statutes provide otherwise. So it's going to be on a case-by-case basis depending on the state that you live in, because states are sovereign, right? Hopefully you're getting this so far. So codification and reform. More reliance on evolving precedents in England, less widespread codification in core areas. Greater codification in the United States. We have the Uniform Commercial Code across the states. We have reforms often driven by social policy changes via courts and legislatures. In summary, American common law started as an offshoot of English common law, but became distinct. And it became distinctly American through constitutional supremacy, federal structure, and independent judicial innovation, leading to substantial, substantive, and procedural differences over time. Core shared principles like precedent and jury trials still persist, but the systems have grown vastly apart, especially now in England. I mean, England's kind of like California now. They're flooding their country with foreign invaders to try to replace the population, people who have very low IQs, who will obviously vote for a welfare check. And that's how their Labor Party is trying to stay in power over there. Now, let's get into some historical comments and citations from our founding fathers and what they said about the adoption of English common law in America, so you don't think I'm just making stuff up. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get on with John Adams. Hey, man, we're having a really big show tonight. All of 3 people are here tonight. I'm surprised we don't have more people. Probably Chili or someone's live, but again, I'm making shorts for later shows, so I'm not really that worried about it. This is more of something to try to help educate people who have a misunderstanding of the fact that we have American common law because it's what our founding fathers intended for this country. Now, obviously, it's been corrupted by the modern judiciary to a large degree, because I believe it's because we allowed communism to become legal in this country, and communism is dedicated to the destruction of the common law republic, and it's prevalent in universities and public schools. And so those are the people teaching your children, and that's probably why the kids come out hating America, dyeing their hair green, and burning American flags. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. What do you think, Mr. Osgood? What do you think, John Adams? I see up there on the screen. I'm so glad you were able to join me in the chat. So let's talk a little bit about how this worked out. The founding fathers generally viewed English common law as a foundational framework for American jurisprudence, though they adapted it to Republican principles. So Republican simply means favoring the rights of the individual over the rights of the majority. And so I got this wrong a little bit ago in one of my earlier shows, so I'm going to sort of say it again. Benjamin Franklin said it very clearly. A republic is where 2 wolves and a sheep show up for lunch and have a vote to decide what's on the menu. A democracy is where 2 wolves and a well-armed sheep show up for lunch, and the sheep gets to contest the vote. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's really what it means. And that's why it's so important for the Marxists to disarm us, because they want to crush the rights of the minority and make sure that the rights of the uneducated mob are the ones who have the power. And that's something that, as someone who's a libertarian like me, who supports the constitutional republic, definitely disagrees with. So they adapted these Republican principles and rejected the elements tied to the monarchy that were incompatible with our independence. These were rugged individuals who wanted independence. They were business owners. They wanted to be left alone. They didn't believe in taxation without representation. But again, what really sparked off the war was the king trying to seize our powder houses, something else they don't teach you in the public schools in America anymore, or the college system. So below, I've compiled some key historical comments and quotes from prominent founding fathers that demonstrate their support for incorporating English common law into the American legal system. And these reflect their writings, their speeches, and their legal opinions, emphasizing common law's role from England as a source of reason, rights, and precedent. So each is cited from reliable historical sources. John Adams. John Adams was a key architect of American independence in the Massachusetts Constitution, explicitly endorsed the adoption of English common law in the colonies, viewing it not as a rigid British imposition, but as an embodiment of universal reason applicable to all free societies. In his notes from the debates in the Continental Congress, Adams, on September 8th of 1774, stated, "The colonies adopt the common law not as the common law, but as the highest form of reason." This comment underscores his belief that common law should be received selectively based on its rational merits, rather than blind adherence to English authority. So see, again, our founding fathers consider themselves to be free Englishmen, not just Englishmen, but free Englishmen. And they were proud of their English heritage, absolutely. So Adams taught himself the common law of England, adapting it to American conditions as he prepared for his legal career. He saw it as essential to colonial governance, forming the basis for Massachusetts law. In 1765, in the dissertation on the canon and feudal law, Adams criticized feudal and canon law, but implicitly supported common law as a counterbalance, arguing for its role in preserving liberty against arbitrary power. Now, let's get into the next guy. Now, this is a guy I really don't have a lot of respect for. This is Alexander Hamilton. So Alexander Hamilton was a Federalist. So he would be akin to a modern Democrat, right? Believing in total centralized control over every aspect of your life, right? High taxes, punishing successful people, and transferring the wealth to people who didn't earn it in exchange for a vote. Of course, modernly, he'd be considered a radical right-wing Republican, but back then, he was considered to be a radical by most of the patriotic Americans in this country. But he was still a visionary, and he was still one of our founding fathers, and he still fought against the British. Hey, what's going on, man? You got a tune for me? So we got Chevy in here, Rhine Labs. Okay, well, Rhine Labs has a trial on Wednesday. Okay, well, we should talk about that when you're done. Maybe we'll do a show and go into it. Always glad to have you here, Chevy. Hopefully, Chevy, if you didn't catch the beginning, you can learn a little bit about the American common law tradition and why our founding fathers always intended that American common law, that common law principles would rule the day in this country. The problem is most people in the patriot or cop watcher community don't really understand what common law is. So hopefully this will help you guys get a better understanding of what it is. And then obviously it's been perverted modernly, but we're going to get into it. So Alexander Hamilton, he was a strong advocate for a robust federal government. He frequently drew on English common law in his legal arguments and writings, seeing it as a stabilizing force for Republican governance and economic order. So even he believed in individual rights, but unfortunately he supported a centralized bank, and we know who controls the banks, and it's not we the people. So I have a real problem with Hamilton, and I blame him for a lot of the modern problems that we have in this country today. In his defense during the 1804 People versus Croswell case, Hamilton argued that English common law provided substantive principles suited to American republicanism, stating it was the best solution to the problem of Republican governance. In other words, governing free people. Hamilton described the common law he relied upon as a centuries-old amalgamation of homegrown English and later American traditions, highlighting its evolutionary adaptation to the United States. In Federalist number 83, 1788, Hamilton invoked common law rules of interpretation as rules of common sense adopted by the courts in the construction of the laws, defending the Constitution's alignment with common law principles like jury trials in civil cases, right? We wouldn't have jury trials if we didn't adapt common law. Thomas Jefferson. So let's get him up there. Obviously, Thomas Jefferson is my guy. Now, Thomas Jefferson was an anti-federalist, like me. He would be considered to be a libertarian by today's standards, for sure. So, Thomas Jefferson, while critical of certain English precedents tied to the monarchy, supported the reception of pre-Norman Saxon common law as a basis for American rights, emphasizing its origins in natural law. And of course, as you know, I'm a natural law attorney, so I'm a little bit unique in that regard. I don't believe in the statutory, centralized control of every aspect of your life that's taught in the public schools and the Marxist-run universities. In his 1774, A Summary View of the Rights of British America, Jefferson argued that English common law derived from Saxon laws predating the Norman conquest, making it a heritage of free people rather than royal fiat. Fiat, there's that word again, fiat, right? And quote, "For we know that the common law is the system of law which was introduced by the Saxons and altered from time to time by proper legislative authority," unquote. Jefferson was influenced by the English distinction between common law, preserved through precedent, and natural law, using it in his legal practice to argue for rights afforded by God as adapted to American context. So there it is again, natural law, your rights coming from God. You see that in the Declaration of Independence. And that's why the Marxists hate the Constitution, especially the Declaration of Independence. They're atheists, and they think that all rights come from the government or from the state. But as a natural law jurisprudence attorney, I know that our rights don't come from government because people are too fallible. I would rather my rights come from an all-powerful creator and that the government be bound by the chains of that freedom, that they cannot abrogate my rights by whim or by Robespierre-like French Revolution principles, which is what the left has been doing in our universities and public schools, using Orwellian wrong is right, right is wrong tactics. In his 1812 observations on the common law and Hardin's case, Jefferson examined the obligation of common law in the U.S., concluding it was binding or not repugnant to Republican principles, supporting its continued use in the states like Kentucky. All right, let's get into the next guy on the list. Our next American revolutionary hero, guys. We're almost done, so it's going to be a quick show tonight. Thanks, Chevy. Chevy gave me a tune. Guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that like and subscribe button. And guys, get memberships because we had over 300 subscribers when I was demonetized for talking about things that YouTube didn't like. And so I lost all those subscribers. So I need to get these people back so we can build this channel. All right. So please do that. Get the word out that Ehline's back and that he's doing his best to educate you about your rights as a freeborn, sovereign American. All right. James Madison. James Madison is known as the father of the Constitution. So when people say our founders never intended for common law, well, that's wrong. It's just not correct. It's just that I think there's a misunderstanding of what common law is. And so there's some confusion. But James Madison incorporated common law elements into the Bill of Rights and viewed it as compatible with American federalism. And federalism used to mean states' rights. Federalism didn't mean that the state controls everything. That's what the modern day colleges teach you. Federalism had to do with states having their own sovereign rights and having a very small 10-mile square Washington, D.C. federal government to control contractual disputes between the states, to protect commerce, and to protect our borders from foreign invasion. That's basically, and to be able to raise money for a Navy and a Marine Corps to protect our country from foreign invasion. And if you watch CNN or C-SPAN or PMSNBC, they'll say, oh no, they wanted illegal aliens to flood into our country. That's just not true, guys. They especially didn't expect the government to afford them temporary protective status, make their babies American citizens, and allow them to go on welfare to milk from the public dole so a certain political party could get votes, which is precisely what they did under the Biden administration. Okay. But again, Madison rejected its application in areas like federal crimes or press restrictions. He didn't like that because he believed in free speech, because he was also a natural law advocate like me. And we saw under the last administration, they were trying to censor us. We had the FBI and the CIA having a revolving door employment relationship with companies like Instagram, where they would single out people like me to have our accounts, our social media accounts shut down, which is obviously censorship, and it's state action. And I'm surprised more people haven't sued. It's also a violation of the Communications Decency Act. But that's for another day, another conversation for another day. In James Madison's June 8th, 1789 speech, he introduced proposed amendments to the Constitution, which became the Bill of Rights. Madison advocated preserving common law jury trials, for example, in suits at common law. So it's right there in our one of our original founding documents. In suits at common law between a man and a man, a trial by jury is one of the best securities to the rights of the people. Ought to remain inviolate. So there you have it. You've got our founding fathers in our founding documents citing the common law were not abrogated by the Bill of Rights as something that we're going to carry on. Now, Madison engaged in discussions on common law constitutionalism, arguing in 1789 correspondence that constitutional interpretation should draw on common law precedents while being bounded by the public opinion and Republican values, just as I argue. In debates on judicial powers during the Constitutional Convention, June 20th, 1788, Madison supported limiting federal common law crimes, but affirmed common law's role in state jurisdictions and civil matters. So these comments illustrate the consensus among our most important founding fathers that English common law, when stripped of monarchical elements and adapted to American ideals, formed a vital foundation for the new nation's legal system. They cited it in constitutions and the state laws, court cases, and writings to ensure continuity and to protect rights and promote justice. So, does anybody have any questions before I bounce? I will take a break. Oh, you want me to watch it now on my show, Chevy? Is that what you're saying? I could probably do that if I can open the darn thing. And look, I cannot open your link. I'm using Restream, but I can cover it in another show, brother, for sure. But I'm definitely going to check it out. I've got to go to the live video when I close this thing down, because when I open the live video, it starts causing all these audio problems, which is a nightmare. But hopefully you guys enjoyed your little history lesson about American common law, where we adapted English common law, except were abrogated by the Bill of Rights. In other words, English common law prior to 1776. And then you saw that Jefferson wanted it limited to Saxon law, because remember, Norman the Conqueror, a Norman or a Norwegian, came from France, which was a Roman civil law democracy, basically. And so he kind of messed up English common law. And so Jefferson wanted to return it back to Saxon common law. So you see, there was a lot going on. And so, again, I don't have all the answers, but I do know American history, and I love my country, and I want to make sure people are educated about where they came from and what their history is, and how important it is to protect our borders and to eliminate communism as a legal form of politics in this country, because it's destroying this country. And why eliminating central banks and returning to the gold standard is one of the most important things that we could ever do to save our country from the attempted Marxist, crony capitalist takeover of this country from people like Bill Gates, George Soros, who are some of these other guys, Larry Fink, right? We don't want that. We want to have individual rights and freedom. When Larry Fink says we have to control people's behavior, and he's the guy who's establishing the National Education Association agenda, absolutely not. He's the one who's pushing the DEI policies that they're teaching in the schools, that white people are privileged and evil. That's all coming from his people. Okay, that's DEI. It's It's cultural Marxism. We don't want that in this country. Oh my God, Chevy, happy dude. Guys, check this out. Chevy, you just made my day. I got a super chat of $50 from Chevy. So I got to tell you something, guys. Chevy is a patriot, and he knows that my heart is pure. He knows that I'm not on here to try to make money. I can bill at $500 an hour as a lawyer. I do this stuff because I'm a homeschooler. I homeschool my children. I'm a gold and silver stacker, a prepper. I grow my own food. I collect, well, I can't legally say I collect rainwater, at least if I lived in California, but I do everything that I can to make sure that you guys know at least what I know. And you can take what I say, you can take it or leave it. But I just want you guys to know that I'm just here to try to help, and you don't have to accept what I say as truth. But I do believe there is only one truth. Your truth can't be your truth, and my truth can't be my truth. The door is either open or it's closed. You can't tell me that a closed door is open. All right. That's an Orwellian tactic that they use in the universities to silence people. Now, man, Chevy, that was freaking outstanding. So I'm really excited because now I get to tell my wife, hey man, because she wanted me out walking around with the kids right now. I was like, hey man, I've got other people out there who've supported me for well over a year on YouTube. I took a respite, and now I'm back, and I'm going to do my best to go live as much as possible when I return to the United States. It's hard because I run a law practice. I have a lot of clients. I don't have as big of an admin unit in my firm anymore. And why is that? Well, because when they shut down the economy under COVID in California, it destroyed our law practice. And so I'm slow, and I had to keep making payroll, but with no form of income because people weren't getting into accidents, and I do personal injury law. So there's nobody driving, and most of my cases were car accidents. And of course, I volunteer my time as a pro bono attorney for Second Amendment and other cases like that there really just isn't any currency that can support me on that. But it's a personal calling, just like people say they're called to the Lord. I'm called to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And I think it's really, really important that people who watch my channel educate themselves and don't just believe anything they learn in the public schools from some stupid school teacher who doesn't know their ass from a hole in the ground, especially some professor. And these professors are the most anti-American people, in my estimation, most of them that I've run across ever. And a lot of them are involved in Antifa, which is basically a Marxist organization dedicated to the destruction of America. And I don't go along with that. I don't play that. Homie, don't play that. So, and I appreciate that, Chevy. Chevy says we love the Ehline family. And Chevy, please tell people that I'm back and ask them to become members. It's only, I think, a couple of bucks to become a monthly member because I want to start doing back channel shows where I can be a little more volatile and firebrand-like, where I don't get the channel banned on YouTube again. And another thing that I wanted to share with you guys is that go check out Salivate Metals and check out Moneco 64 if you want to learn about precious metals, American currency, and understanding that it's the only real money. And learning, and Moneco 64, he's amazing. His name's Mario. He'll teach you about things that you had no clue about. And well, unless you're me, but he even teaches me things that I didn't know. And that's what I love about him. Super civil guy. He used to be, I believe, a stock trader in Switzerland, but he is, in my estimation, a libertarian, but he lives in the United Kingdom now. And he's a collector of precious metals, and he'll explain the fiat currency system, central banks, how our currency has been the real reason for inflation. Contrary to what you hear on CNN, they blame rich people or they blame tariffs. For the first 150 years of our country, we were the most prosperous country in the world, and we had no income tax. The income tax has led to the destruction of the American family, and it allows for far left Marxist government employees to audit you and to destroy your family. It should be abolished. I believe that it is criminal to have a federal income tax. Unfortunately, I have to abide by it as a American that's bound by the power of the barrel of a gun, right? So, and I know that most of the people on my channel agree with me. We could do far better by eliminating the income tax, getting rid of fiat currency, going back to a gold and silver based monetary system, which is required by the Constitution. and returning the American people their freedom. If they don't want to buy something, they don't have to pay the tax. It's simple as that. Do you guys agree? Hey, Dad, check it out, guys. Dad just threw me a tenner. Thanks, Dad. And no, Dad's not my real dad, but I wouldn't mind if he was, because he's a patriot. And my dad passed away from Agent Orange. And why did that happen? Because our government lied to us about the Gulf of Tonkin and sucked us into the Vietnam War. And my dad was a combat Marine. He did 2 tours in Vietnam. And he was exposed heavily to Agent Orange. And Agent Orange is a chemical spray that they said was safe and effective. You've heard that word before, safe and effective. Anytime you hear the government say that, run. Run as far away as you can. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So ultimately, my dad passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Just a little tidbit. Oh, by the way, one thing I didn't share with you about my past is I also used to have a limousine company, and I was Rodney Dangerfield's driver. And I know I'm not as funny as him, but I definitely picked up on some funny quips, and sometimes I try to make you laugh. You know what I mean? Hey. But Rodney was the man. Yeah, Roundup. That's right, Rhine Labs. Roundup is, yeah, I know, give 70%. YouTube gets, yeah, that's true. YouTube gets 30%. I'm not done rewriting my book about how to become a lawyer without law school. I know it says on my profile you can buy a copy of my book. Don't start sending me PayPal payments for that yet. Let me get the next version finished, because the one that I had was a Google book, and somehow or another my computer got hacked and that book was deleted. And so all of you people who bought copies of my book, your copies were deleted too. So anybody who bought a copy of my book about how to become a lawyer with no law degree or undergrad, I'm going to replace it for you with a real PDF version. The problem is I'm not the most computer literate guy, and because I do have a firm, and everything that I do here on my channel is separate and apart from the work that I do for my firm or other attorneys. These were my own personal opinions. It's not legal advice. Nobody endorses me. I do endorse homeschooling. I endorse Cubs to Bears books, Brett Pike. And I do intend on working with him more, because I think we need to homeschool our kids. Go Amish, go organic milk, man, go. But let me just scroll up. Thank you, Chevy. That means a lot to me. Chevy says Paul Ehline is in our hearts. That means a lot to me, man. I really miss my dad. He was, even though he was a hard ass, because he was a Marine and he had a rough life, he taught me Republican principles of rugged individualism. And that's one of the reasons why I do these shows, because I want to pass on that tradition to people who really want to learn, people who really want to know about who they are as Americans. Now, BS Unleashed, y'all, says, Ohio wondered what happened. I couldn't find my copy. No, I got you. I got hacked. Somebody was posting, just like they did with Chile. Somebody was posting stuff on Twitter, pretending to be me. Somehow they got into my computer, and as a result, they also got into my Google accounts, deleted all my stuff. I mean, it was a freaking nightmare. So I got all that stuff fixed, and I've learned about computer security since then. But yeah, no, don't think that. And I owe you, my new book is going to be 1,000 times better, and I'm going to get into the modern law office study program, because a lot of the stuff has changed. So you'll learn a lot more about it. And I get into more of my background, like how I became a lawyer with no law degree or undergrad. And then later went to law school at night and earned my JD after I was already a practicing attorney, which is really cool. I'm the first guy to ever graduate from my school who was already a practicing California attorney. And I believe that I'm the first California Court of Appeal judicial extern who was ever on the law study program as well. So I have some really cool distinctions that really make me stand out from the crowd. It makes me really proud, and it's something that I can be proud to tell my children about. Really. But honestly, guys, it's not the achievement, it's the journey. So don't forget that. You guys who are suffering, you guys who are struggling, you guys who have been through hell, are going through hell, just remember, when you finally achieve your goals and you do the things that your vision quest has caused you to carry on, and when you finally achieve those goals, I would say that it's going to be anticlimactic. You're going to look back on that journey. Like, I remember when I slept on park benches, right? When I didn't have enough money. but I still was studying in the libraries and hanging out in the Starbucks, right? It's those memories that are going to empower you. That's what really builds character. So don't forget that, you people who are suffering and going through hard times. Just remember what Mike Ehline said. The joy is in the journey, not the destination. Okay, obviously you have to achieve the goal, or you'll be miserable. But when you look back at it, it's like, man, I'm so proud of myself that I was able to do that. Look, mom, look, dad, or look, best friend. People who really support you, who aren't jerks. It may only be one person, maybe no one, but at least it still can be you. Okay. No, I have. I have escaped communist Fornia, um, Miss Missy. I moved out of state, so I live in a free state now, but I'm also barred into Texas. Um, and I'm so glad I got out because, I mean, communist Fornia has just completely imploded upon itself. All the people who brought wealth and success to California are leaving. Chevron, uh, I mean, you name it, Elon Musk, because they don't want to deal with all these Marxist regulations designed to enrich people who didn't earn it. And that's all DEI is, didn't earn it. And you see they're doing the same thing in Washington. Now they're trying to make coin dealers pay an extra 10% tax. So what's that going to do? It's going to put the coin dealers out of business. People are going to go across state lines to buy coins. Every time these Marxist politicians pass a new law, they lose another person who could have been part of their tax base. And that's what's happening in California as well. But now that we've stopped illegal immigration, if we can deport the illegals, the people who caused all this are going to lose voting districts, and California may return back to a conservative state, and I may move back. But I'm not going to live in a state that wants to charge me outrageous taxes and destroy my livelihood and then call me a racist on top of that. Not happening, Newsom. Not happening, buddy. I'm married to a Salvadorian. I have interracial children. I'm highly offended by that, by people like you, Newsom, and your DEI anti-American mob. So you can go and do whatever you need to do, but you're not going to come after me and my kids and brainwash my children in the public school system to think that I'm some kind of evil person just because of the color of my skin. That's not going to happen. It is insanity there, Miss Missy. That's right. Overcoming adversity, it builds character. That's right. So, well, the journey does suck. So eye for an eye, Free Press says the journey sucks. Well, yeah, it does. But it's like being in Marine Corps boot camp. It was the worst, man. It sucked. I'm not going to lie. I hated it. But man, I was so proud when I earned my Eagle Globe and Anchor. And that's really the best way I could describe it. It's like you're graduating boot camp when you get off that journey and you finally earn through merit, not through the government telling you, well, you're a certain color or a certain gender, and therefore you're entitled to this. No, it's because you earned it with your blood, sweat, and tears. That's what makes it valuable. Something with no value has no value to you or other people. When you give somebody something for free, they don't accept it as valuable. See, somebody like Chevy, for example, he always donates to me because he knows that this isn't free. He knows that what I'm doing isn't free, and he sees value in it. And I'm just blown away that there are people like him that think like me. Now, much to the chagrin of my wife, a lot of you guys probably know that a lot of the donations that I get on my channel, I give to help other people. Like I was a donor to Lane Myers, was a donor to several other channels, because I want to promote people with what I got here from you, who are like-minded. And I always try to promote other people like Mario at Mineko 64 and Clive Thompson, the Market Sniper, because I want to share with you what it helped shape me into a better lawyer and a better human being, a better natural law rights advocate. So yeah, double tap that screen, man. So I'm going to go up. Does anybody have any questions about American common law traditions or history, about our founding fathers who expressly stated that they wanted common law to apply in America, the provisions in the Declaration of Independence that memorialize at least trial by jury as a common law principle, anything like that? And thank you, Dad. Thank you, Chevy. That means a lot to me, bro. I mean, because I know you're not rich, and I know that you've gone through your issues. So, and I'm going to check out all your your music too. You're the man. And I'll try. Look, does anybody have any ideas for content that you'd like me to discuss in future videos? I'm going to cover the Washington. I'm going to try tomorrow. I know try means I won't, but I am with my family, guys, and I'm still working on cases out here. But if any of you have any ideas for me that fit into my wheelhouse, Second Amendment rights, Bill of Rights, Constitution, fiat currency, silver, gold, any of that kind of stuff, anything in the news that's come up that you want to discuss, maybe COMEX, the paper market, more stuff about Larry Fink and how he's trying to take over the National Education Association to further brainwash your children, right, to gender confuse them, why we need homeschooling to get away from that whole system of brainwashing our children, the history of the public school system, how it really came from Rockefeller and the King of Prussia to brainwash people into being loyal servants to the state, any of that kind of stuff. You tell me and I'll cover it in a future show. Share with the chat. The problem is, bro, I could try to use my phone. Okay, hold on, man. I got you, man. Hold on. I'm trying to turn the sound off on this. Yeah, see, I got my phone. The problem is when I do my phone, never mind. Let me get your video, dude. I owe this to Chevy. Oh, yeah. Oh, Black Betty, bumbalin. Oh, Black Betty, bumbalin. Big, still big with lipstick, bumbalin. Low IQ, chumzilla, bumbalin. Low IQ, G.I. Joe, loser, bumbalin. Torture comes, always torture, bumbalin. Oh, Black Betty, bumbalin. Oh, Black Betty, bumbalin. Popo picks we bumbalin. Sounds like me. We don't stop. We call them as we see them. Bumbalum. Stinky, bumbalum. Road pirates, bumbalum. Police state, bumbalum. Overturn Terry B. Ohio. Bumbalum, big bumbalum. They don't reach around. Big copper, eat chili shorts, bumbalum. Big sweat. Government employee safety gas light. Big sweat. Bumbalum. That's hot. Dude, that was sick. All right, so hopefully you guys heard that. I mean, I'm limited with audio out here. I normally have a Shure microphone that really has amazing sound, so I'm doing my best with the resources that I've been provided. But I tried. Thank you, Chevy. Thank you for all the donations tonight, guys, too. I was not expecting that. Dude, Chevy, you are freaking awesome, dude. I hope that I can meet you someday. If you ever want to come out to Nevada, I plan on going to the SHOT Show. I may attend Alan Beck's hearing coming up here in a couple of days, actually, in Washington, D.C., the Second Amendment case, the Wolford case that he's arguing before the Supreme Court against the state of Hawaii, and Obama's lawyer, who is arguing that the racist black codes should apply to prevent people from being able to keep and bear arms in Hawaii. Unbelievable, these Marxists, man. It's like they're so duplicitous in their nature. They'll just argue anything as long as it prevents you and I from being able to defend our families from the government. It's unbelievable. Dude, that is so freaking outstanding. Yeah, man, that was dope, dude. So let me see. Okay, so Miss Massey says that musician rights and compensation would be a good topic. Well, it's a little bit outside what I normally talk about, but yeah, I've done trademark and copyright. I actually worked on a case where Keith Idema, IDEMA, if you want to Google him, he's dead now. I think he died of AIDS, actually. This guy who was an imposter, he claimed to have been the Special Forces Green Beret who had captured nuclear material from the Russians. They were trying to make dirty bombs or suitcase bombs. And there was a movie made based on his alleged story. And so we helped him with his lawsuit against, I think it was Disney, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a movie out there. The guy who hangs out with Obama and the little kids on the boat, who lives in Italy now, who hates all things American. That guy was the star of the movie. I forgot his name, but you guys probably know the movie. So I worked on that. So I know quite a bit about copyright and entertainment law. And I think James actually was like a Green Beret reservist for a year or two, but he claimed that he was like this commando. Yeah, these guys are unbelievable, these stolen valor guys, but learned about that later. And he was one of these guys who overcompensated for his masculinity because it turns out that he was gay and, he was embarrassed. So he tried to overcompensate and act like he was more masculine than he was. And I don't really care about his sexual preference, but it's just the very stereotypical overcompensation, right? Instead of just accepting who he was, he just couldn't do it. So James Keith Idema, and oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of that movie, but it was really interesting. Yeah, that was a good idea. I love the blues, man. Whenever I go to Illinois, I always head to Chicago and find the crummiest, most rundown blues bar. And I'm like the only white dude in there, man. And they're all looking at me like I'm crazy, but I love the blues. So that was right. That was in my wheelhouse. All right. So let's see here. If there's any other questions. Yeah. What did you receive in exchange for your labor and sweat? No kidding. That's Mr. DL. Are you? Yeah. Rhinelab has to go unwrap his x-ray machine. I'll share it on my bucket list. I'm going to share it on my Chevy. I'm going to share it on my favorites under things I like. So, and I'm going to play it in one of my next videos too. I'm going to figure once I get the link and I can get it incorporated with Restream, I'll play it for everyone. So Chevy, come back, and dude, that was a freaking cool song, dude. Love it. Oh, now, okay, Mr. DLRU says you can't prove absolute title to property unless you paid for it with gold or silver. Well, that may be true, but we don't have absolute title to property because we have property taxes, which I believe is another Marxist invention that was thrust upon us that should be illegal. I think that people who think that property taxes are okay should be tarred and feathered. You don't own your property if you don't own it. Right. And we should also eliminate the capital gains on gold and silver. Gold and silver is money. Since when do you tax money? I mean, it's so backwards the way this country is. It's a disgrace. And we need to return to the republic. Republic. Everybody repeat after me. Republic. Put it in the comments. So with that being said, I've been here for a while now tonight. And I think it's time for me to go. Chevy, you put wind in my sails, man. I lost over 200 subscribers when YouTube censored me. I think I have 5 now. So put out the word to get us some subscribers. I need some privates and lance corporals, and I need my old moderators back. So let's try to get the show going again. The more people who show up, the more people who want to help with the channel, the more motivated I am to do this. I get up at 0400 and hit the gym. I don't know if you guys can see, but like my body has just totally transformed itself. I have no belly at all. I got my traps back. My upper rhomboids are pumping. My delts are pumping. When I go out, the girls are just like all over me. It's almost embarrassing. My wife grabs my hand. It's kind of a nice feeling. Being 56 years old and looking like this is nothing short of a miracle. And it all has to do with discipline and freedom. So don't forget this in closing, guys. That discipline equals freedom. Spirit and discipline, the hallmark of a Marine. Spirit and discipline. Discipline equals freedom. If you're disciplined and you get up, you stop eating sugar, you stop eating carbs, you start eating properly, you supplement your diet, take protein shakes like whey, milk, and egg protein. Have your eggs. Don't forget about the egg whites, guys. If you're not eating sugar, you need cholesterol. You need those egg yolks. You need to get off the government diet. They want you sick. That's why Larry Fink and all of his weirdos over at BlackRock, they're all about promoting fat people. Well, who does that help? Pharma, right? Because then they can sell them a drug to treat their diabetes, and they die younger, so they're less of a burden to society when they hit a certain age, right? Because they don't want to take care of old people. Social Security's bankrupt already. The Social Security is that money is that Federal Reserve notes from Social Security are already gone. The government took that money out, that Federal Reserve note out a long time ago and replaced it with an IOU. Okay, so don't think that you have Social Security. The best way to preserve your life is health and fitness and proper nutrition. Repeat after me. Take care of your body, mind, and soul. It's so important. Now, Mr. DLRU says, not referring to land property, all land was once allodial. Right, I get that. It was traded for bond notes and public works, schools, police stations, and so on. Dude, you're preaching to the choir. We need to return to a tariff-based system and abolish all these local, state, and federal taxes unless it's an acceptable tax that we, the people, agree on. But that's for another show. It's just too much for me to talk about. But yeah, man, it's so awesome to see all you guys. Kurt Bronson, era, Devil Dog. Hit that like and subscribe button, guys. Make sure to share this video with your friends. I know it's a slow night tonight. It's New Year's Day, but this was a really good topic tonight, and I think people are going to learn a lot from it. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do